So let's jump in here and talk about exactly how you will manage the actual SSIS packages. So let's just take this from a scenario you're walking in on day one to a brand new job. The company that's hired you is making extensive use of SSIS, and they've told you, you're going to be in charge. Maybe you have experience with it, maybe you don't. But it's your job to now manage the SSIS for this particular company. So, what would you expect to see when you came into the office? How would you expect that the company that already has SSIS packages, how do you expect that they have that taken care of? Is it files? Are there SSIS packages stored in the registry? Are they on CD-ROM? Are they on a floppy disk? Right. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get you to think is how this company organizes all of this. Now, I'm going to teach you that, obviously. That's what this chapter is all about. But I'm kind of curious to think what you would consider. In your experience, is the company mostly interested in a file-based solution, or are they interested more in a server-based solution? So in other words, are they storing these packages as actual files in a file system that maybe they could put on in under source control? Or are they doing such in a SQL Server database, for example? Well, the answer is probably both for most organizations. I have a preference of storing them in the file system. I like the file system because it's easier to manipulate the files. I could just simply go straight to the file, load that up, and edit the file directly. I don't have to go through some complex export. I also like the file because it's so easy to integrate with my source code control. In particular, I use SVN, so it's so easy to just work with the files in an SVN folder, and then I check them out and check them in, and I can make my notes as to what changes that I've made on that particular file. So I am partial to the file system myself. So when I talk to you about saving packages in my SQL Server, it's probably in a case of I've been asked to save them in the SQL Server for some particular reason. I might do it for that, but for my own projects and for work that I recommend to others, it's almost exclusively saving it in the file system. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about in this video and the next video how to save them, how to deploy the packages to different locations, and I'm going to try to demystify some of what unfortunately is a little bit of obfuscation, I think, by the SSIS development team when it comes to managing, manipulating, editing, saving, deploying, etc. I'm going to try to make it easy. Let's just see if I can do that actually. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to pretend that you haven't watched any of the other chapters. I'm just going to make a brand new SSIS package. Move these out of the way here. So I'm going to go into the Visual Studio. I'm going to make a brand new SSIS project, an integration services project. I'll call the solution chapter 3. And this is my project, and it'll just probably have all of the things that I have in here. So I'll create a directory for it. We'll go ahead, let it extract, and create package.exe. So if I take a look at the Solution Explorer, package.dtsx, let's go ahead and just name that video 2, right? Because this is the second video in the chapter. Let me close that guy out right there. You can see here I've got video2.dtsx. It shows the asterisk, and so let's go ahead and save that. Now, if what I did, let me just go ahead and tell you this. If what I just did was too fast for you, you need to go back and watch chapters 1 and 2 because that should not have been too fast at this point if you've gone through and taken a look at those videos. So anyway, now we have video2.dtsx, and we want it, imagine that there's all kind of fancy stuff on here. We could have data flows, whatever you got to think about. You've got FTP, blah, blah, blah. It's doing something fancy. And now you want to send it to your friend and have your friend take a look at it because maybe you need some help on a troubleshooting thing. What do you do? How do you take this package and send it to your friend for them to be able to work with it? Let's say that they're on the same network in the same domain that you are. You don't have to worry about, getting too fancy and shipping it FedEx or UPS or FTP or whatever way. All you're going to do is just send them an email and say, hey, here's this package. I want you to take a look at it. Here's the question, can you just send him that DTSX file? Can you just send her a link to that DTSX file and know that that person will be able to get to that, assuming that they have the network rights? Yes, actually, yeah, it's really that simple. We often see the documentation or books making things very complicated. You got to deploy it. You got to talk about the package store and MSDB. But you know what? At the end of the day, if it's a DTSX file, I can ship it over and they can open it up. It's really that simple. Now, I'm going to make it more complex. I'm going to show you how it all works and how to do the proper deployments and what the package store is and MSDB and package protection levels and all that cool stuff. We're going to talk about it. But reality is, it's ultra simple. I can take this DTSX file. Watch, I've got this My Project. It's saved in this fancy solution called Chapter 3. We close it. I leave it. And you know what? Take a look. This was stored in the Documents, Visual Studio 2008, Projects, Chapter 3 folder, My Project. Okay, I know that because as we learned in the previous two chapters, this is the default location for it. Okay, so again, if that's a little too fast for you, it might be helpful to watch that if you haven't seen those already. But so here's the DTSX file, and watch, I can make a copy of it. I can move it to a new location, and I can go ahead and I can open it. Now, if I double click on it right here, what you're going to get is the execute package utility. Not what I want right now. We'll talk about that in Chapter 8 when we talk about executing and scheduling packages. Not what I want right now. What I can do, though, is I can right-click, open with, or I could just open Visual Studio and open this directly. So if I open this and I say, no, I don't want the package execution utility. I want the Visual Studio, and I uncheck that. I don't want that to always open that file type. Now it loads up the SSIS package. And because this Visual Studio has all of the SSIS package types in here, because this particular project template is installed on my version of Visual Studio, look at this. I can make changes to it. I can drag and drop. I can save it, and it saves it. I can execute through the package execution utility. Notice here, if we go now to the Solution Explorer, this package is disconnected from a project. Okay, and I can't go to the Solution Explorer and right-click and execute the package. When I go to, notice here, I can't start debugging. So if I did want to test this out, now I can double-click on it, and I can have it launch the package, the execute package utility. Okay, so I could say, here's the package source. Notice it picks it up right here, and I can execute this in a disconnected location or outside of my SSIS environment, my IDE here. Okay, so it really is that simple. DTSX files are DTSX files, and that's all you need to be able to get things to work. Now, we are going to make it more fancy. We're going to talk about how to save these packages using the package deployment utility in the file system. We're going to talk about in the SQL Server. I'm going to talk about the package store. I think all that can be handled in one video. It's really so easy. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop here. I'll come back in the next video and we'll talk about deployment.